What's up, everyone? Nathan Barna here. Today's video has some irony in it. It's about stress management, and this is probably my 9th or 10th take on trying to make this video, and it has been a pain in my ass and has been a stress for me. So learning how to manage this stress of trying to make the video about stress has definitely been a fun experience. But I guess that can turn into a lesson for myself and for everyone that has to do with stress. And that is that many times, when we're faced with different situations like this, even something as simple as technology not working correctly, or me feeling like I sound like a babbling idiot half of the time, just little things that might trigger us throughout the day and can be a source of stress. One of the things that has helped me in my life, and one of the things that I teach the clients that I work with, is that no matter what's going on around you, we always have a choice in how we respond. See, we can be reactive to situations. We can let these situations trigger us and cause that spike in our level of stress, and be a problem, something that is making us angry or sad or depressed or whatever it might be. Or we can develop responsibility for the choices that we make in regards to the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So the way that I like to look at it is, if you imagine yourself in a tornado, if you imagine your life as a tornado, and if you imagine your mind, in a sense, as a tornado, you have everything that's continually swirling around you, all of your problems, all your thoughts, all your feelings, your sensations, your images, all of these things that are constantly swirling around you. But in the center of the tornado, there's the calm, there's the eye, where it's quiet and you can remain grounded. And through different practices such as meditation, for instance, you can develop the awareness to keep yourself in the center of the tornado without getting sucked up into it. Because normally what happens is, whenever we have a problem or whenever we have anything that triggers us to have a reaction, we automatically lose that awareness and jump right in, and then we start swirling around with everything else that's going on around us, and we lose that footing, we lose that groundedness. But when you develop the awareness where you can see yourself objectively and see your thoughts objectively, then you can choose how you're going to respond to any given situation. You can remain in the center of the tornado and choose what you're going to deal with. This isn't to say that you're avoiding your problems, or you're avoiding or trying to suppress anything. You're still feeling and being aware and witnessing exactly what's going on. But the difference is, you're giving yourself that split second of space to make that judgment and make that decision as to how you're going to respond to the situation. So with something like this, I feel the frustration when I'm talking for 25 minutes and then I suddenly realize that nothing was recorded or nothing was working. And it makes you want to just give up and like, fuck it, I'm done with this shit. But then, you kind of take that step back and you're like, okay, I see what's going on here. And you can develop that perspective, as I like to do, that all these things are happening for a reason, and you could find whatever story or whatever perspective to tell yourself to give meaning behind the problems that you're having, and then the problems turn into opportunities, which is where the fucking magic happens. Because instead of, what the hell, why is this happening to me? It becomes, all right, there's some reason these things are happening. Maybe it's not working because I need more time to sift through my thoughts and fully develop this idea that I'm trying to present. Or, maybe the state of being and the energy that I'm bringing to the table, to this presentation, to this discussion right now, isn't where it needs to be to best reach my audience. So maybe it shouldn't be working right now because I do need more time to make this better and more valuable. Or maybe I just need to fuck up a lot of time so that I can continue to practice my ability to speak to an audience, even if it's just to a camera and into a microphone, but to develop that practice so that, again, I can be better at what I'm doing. So I guess that's a side note for everyone, a kind of a side discussion, but it's related to our topic today, which is stress management specifically. And I'm not going to try to fully tackle that topic because it's something that I could spend hours and hours on, because there's many different angles to approach it. But instead, with the brief space I have in this video here, I'm going to try to give you guys my experience as an athlete, because a lot of the people that kind of follow me are athletes, wanting to perform at a high level. So that's what I do. That's what my passion is. So that's where I find that I have the most experience with. So that's the perspective that I'm going to give you and kind of share my experience with how I deal with these different issues and the solutions that I have found to work best for me and work best with the people that I coach. So the first thing you have to realize about stress is that it doesn't matter where it's coming from. Your body reacts to it in the same ways. So whether that stress is coming from your training, obviously the training that you do as an athlete is a big stress on your body, whether that's from your mental, emotional stress. Research shows that we have about 68,000 thoughts per day, 90% of which are negative in orientation. So even just your thinking and things like I just discussed with making this video, if you have a lot of those types of things compounding all day, every day, that can be a huge source of stress in your life without you even realizing, and without there even actually being anything that is threatening your survival, because it's all perceived. And that's where a lot of our anxiety as a society comes from, and the depression too, and it's kind of on the other side of the coin. But we're creating these situations in our head, and we're reacting to these situations as if they're happening, when in actuality nothing is happening. When you're driving in the car and you're having anxiety because you're thinking about, oh, you're going to be late, or oh, you might get in a wreck, or oh, you might get pulled over. But all of these things are just our perception. They're just the what ifs, the should have, could haves, and all the things that aren't actually happening if you are able to bring yourself back into the present moment. If you're able to put yourself back in the eye of the tornado and realize you don't have to be in those situations that you're perceiving yourself to be, and that's a choice that you're making, and that's a stress that you're placing on yourself. So mental, emotional stress is a big one. And then you've got things like your nutritional stress. So if you're not eating quality foods, or if you're eating genetically modified foods, or you're eating foods that are loaded with different pesticides or herbicides, rodenticides, all these other toxins that are typically present in our commercially grown food nowadays, your body has to detoxify that. So that, again, that is a stress on your body. If you're not getting quality and adequate amount of sleep, that can be a stress on your body. So as you can see, there's many different areas of your life where stress can be coming from. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that stress is a bad thing. I'm not saying that you want to completely avoid all types of stress. We wouldn't be alive right now if it wasn't for stress. You wouldn't be able to go to the gym and, increase your performance and increase your strength or increase your size if it wasn't for stress and your body's ability to adapt to that stress. We need stress in order to grow and evolve as individuals and as a species. The problem comes when we're not able to manage the stress effectively. So it turns into a game of balance. And that's how I like to approach it as an athlete. I know that I'm going to be training like 6 days a week, 2-3 hours a day of heavy training. I know that's going to be a big stressor in my life. So if my dream is to be an elite athlete, and if we back up for a minute, that's always the first step, is figuring out what your dream is. Because if you're not clear on what you're even trying to do with your life, on what your purpose is in your life, or even what goals you have for yourself, then inevitably you're going to find yourself in all sorts of circumstances and situations that might be causing unnecessary stress in your life. And you don't have that judgment, you don't have that value structure to eliminate or modify those stresses, because you haven't gotten clear on what your goal is and what you're actually trying to accomplish. So no matter what we talk about, that's always step one, because that's always the basis in which all of these things are going to stem from. Okay? I have to make sure this audio doesn't cut off on me like it has been doing. So moving forward again, once you know what your dream is, and you're trying to figure out how to manage these things in your life, again, if you know that you're going to be training and that's a significant stress, then you have to look at all of those other areas we touched on. So you've got the 6 foundation principles. You've got your sleep, nutrition, hydration, breathing, thinking, and movement. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, breathing, thinking, and movement. I repeated it because those are very important. And if you can dial in each one of those areas, as I do with myself and as I help my athletes do, you don't need to, search for the next magic supplement or magic pill or magic test or program or quick fix this or that. All you have to do is manage yourself adequately and manage the stressors in your life adequately, and you can continue to excel and move forward with whatever your dream is. Because, regardless of if your dream is to be an elite athlete, or just, you want to be a successful businessman or woman, or a successful parent, or a successful, grocery store clerk, it really doesn't matter. We're all human, and we all have to pay attention to our basic fundamental needs as a species. So there's no getting around those. So those 6 areas are the first place to look when it comes to managing the different stressors in your life. So movement would be considered training. That's going to be one stress in your life. So you have to find the balance. So if you're putting yourself in a lot of stress during training, then you have to make sure and that's, with training. And when I'm talking about stress in general, I'm basically referring to anything that is causing the sympathetic activation of your nervous system, anything that is stimulating that fight or flight response that is going to elevate your stress hormones, such as cortisol and adrenaline. So you've got the sympathetic branch of your nervous system, and then you've got the parasympathetic branch of your nervous system, which is the rest and the digest. So really the essence of all of this is being able to have a functional balance of those two. They're both active all the time, but depending on what you're doing or how you're being, who you're being, then usually one branch is more dominant than the other. In our society today, we have a problem with too much dominance of the sympathetic nervous system, which again is related to just too much stress from all the different factors I mentioned. So we have to find the things that are going to help stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So sleep is one of the biggest things that you can do to optimize your recovery as an athlete. And it's very undervalued in this society of, we got to work harder, we got to do more. And, we end up staying up late and we're on our phones or looking at screens, watching TV, and we've got all these lights around us, and, we've got our Wi-Fi and our cell phones that are emitting electromagnetic frequencies that are, again, placing additional stress on our body and not allowing us to have the proper hormonal production to allow us to get into a deep, restful sleep. So that's one of the first places you have to start is how is your sleep? Because that's going to be it's free, and it's one of the most effective things that you can do to optimize yourself is to optimize your sleep. And then once you get your sleep, you need to optimize your nutrition. So one of the biggest things with nutrition is, moving away from conventionally produced, genetically modified foods and eating a diet of whole food from organically raised or organically grown sources, especially when it comes to your meats, because the toxins bioaccumulate. So what's in your produce, however much toxicity you might have in your produce, it bioaccumulates into the meat that you're eating. And it takes about 6 pounds of vegetation to produce about 1 pound of meat. So if you're not eating organically raised meat, grass-fed beef, for example, then you're going to have this bioaccumulation of toxins. So nutrition is another big factor that needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to stress management. And the other one with nutrition is getting off your typical vegetable oils that are typically genetically modified, that are very prevalent in a lot of the processed foods that we eat in the restaurants that we typically go to. So I won't bore you with going down the line of each one of those, but as you can see, when you're looking at the big picture of these things, if you want to optimize your performance as an athlete, you have to manage all of these different aspects of your life. It's not just enough to go to the gym and train hard, because if you're not managing yourself effectively outside of the gym, you're not going to have the resources and the capacity to recover from what you're doing in the gym. Because like I said, it's stress accumulates in the body. So if you have an excessive amount of stress from the things you're doing outside of the gym, and then you try to add training on top of that, you're just adding fire to fire. And this is what typically leads athletes to burning out or plateauing or just overall poor performance, and ultimately getting sick or injured, which is essentially your body telling you and forcing you to take a step back and to rest and to reduce the amount of stress in our lives. So again, there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this topic, and it can be overwhelming when you start to dig deeper into these things and really start to question a lot of your daily habits and things that might be taking away from your ability to recover and perform effectively. But just go back to the basics, the 6 foundation principles: sleep, nutrition, hydration, breathing, thinking, movement. If you can dial in each one of those aspects, you're going to be ahead of 90%, if not more, of athletes that are not considering all of those elements and trying to out-train a poor diet and out-train poor sleep and out-train poor breathing pattern, out-train poor thinking, and try to rely on these different supplements and recovery tools and all these kind of quick fix techniques without taking into consideration the basics. So I hope this helps you guys. I'm going to inevitably expand on more and more of these topics as we go along here, but I don't want these videos to get too long because I know most people won't be able to make it that far. But if you want more help, if you want more personalized help, then I am up for hire as a coach. This is what I do, not only with myself, but with everyone I work with, all the athletes and clients that I have. We sit down and we take a look at each one of these different areas and see exactly where you're out of balance at, and use different techniques and different questionnaires and things to identify those areas. And then we kind of work through a process to help you make these changes for yourself and kind of learn how to reestablish the connection with your body so that you can identify, the symptoms that might be popping up if you're not paying attention to these different aspects. And if you don't think that you can afford that, then we offer an online training system which has some of the questionnaires that we use in our one-on-one training, but it's more hands-off, and you'll still be able to see exactly where you might be out of balance, and then you can start to make these changes for yourself. And ultimately, that's what all this is about, is taking personal responsibility for your own performance, for your own health and well-being and vitality, and doing the things that you can do to be the best version of yourself so that you can be that source of guidance and inspiration for others, and you can be the example and help guide others to making their own changes in their lives. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.